Hello Internet, welcome back to our stream saver project. I've manipulated things a little bit so we have just a slightly heavier platform and that lets us stack more boxes before it just falls over. So I've increased the mass of that to 24, just random number picked out of the air. But that way you can kind of get this, it's off balance obviously, but since these only weigh 1 unit each, it doesn't quite outbalance it, but if we were to like move all of them, it'll still fall over, pretty sure. So we can do something like that, and you can see it at least tips, just not as easily, so you don't just lose immediately, because the idea is to go high. So I think that's going to be the score, is how high you can build, and there's going to be like milestones. At least that's sort of what I'm thinking, where it drops another flat platform and kind of balances that. I think that makes sense. But we'll see. So that's sort of what I had envisioned. But in order to get that to work, we are going to need to actually drop things. So that is sort of what we're doing in this video. We're going to just figure out how to drop these boxes, which should be, I'm hoping this is straightforward. This shouldn't be really hard. If it is, I'm making it way more difficult than it needs to be. Because really all we need is to create a like prefab here. Yeah. And we'll just, oops, that's not right. We'll just call it like our block. So we have a block and pull our cube down there, create a prefab out of it. So now we have a rigid body and box collider. It's all set up for us. We don't really need to mess with that anymore. And we'll just call it a block because why not? I can delete it from there. And then all we need to do now is create something that can actually drop these. So we're going to want to be able to drop them in a number of places. I think there's going to be some sort of voting system. So it kind of tallies up everybody's votes over like a 1 or 2 second period and then drops a block each time. I think that makes the most sense and just doesn't take any action if nobody's voted. But the way we're going to implement this, that whole how you actually use it is going to be separate from how you actually drop things. So the dropping can be implemented in a whole bunch of ways, and then things just tie into that. That's sort of the design we're going for. So we're going to have a block dropper, I guess. Not really sure if that makes sense, but this is going to have a public game object, the block prefab, kind of making that part up as I go. And then we'll want a list of transforms. So transform array, and this is going to be our drop points. So there's going to be a set of points where you can actually drop something from. And theoretically, these could actually move over time, which is why I'm doing it this way instead of like hard coding them or something. And it just makes it easier for us to actually manipulate this. So there's that. I'm also going to add a public int drop point count, which is just going to have a getter that's just going to return the drop points dot count. And the reason for that is just so we can actually get that out if we need it. Ideally, we want to be able to like know how many there are, and just in general. And that's going to be useful for the UI and stuff, so we know how many buttons to display and all of that. So this way, it's just sort of separate, and you can't like override that magically. So now that we have that, I need to create a function that's pretty much just drop at point. So we're going to make this public because I want to invoke it from an event. And this is going to be a public void drop block at index. And it's just going to take an index of the point to drop at and just drop a block there. So we're going to have an int index. And if our index is greater than or equal to 0, and our index is less than the drop point count. So this is just a bounds check, just to make sure we're not going to get any out of bounds errors. So if we had done our index is equal to the drop bounds count, since arrays are indexed at 0, we would be 1 over the maximum size. This is just, you can't go below 0, so this should cover that entire range. This way there's just no out of bounds things. And so once we do that, then we can do drop points dot. Actually, we don't want to do any of that. We want to instantiate a new block prefab at the drop point of index at its position, and then also do drop points index rotation. So this way we're actually passing in a rotation. So if we actually want to rotate things, it's an option for us. I don't think we're going to need to do that, but it's there if we need it. And that should be everything. We don't need either of those, so I'm going to actually remove those for now. And we could just leave all of this here. We've got our drop block and index, so everything should be good there. Now I just need something that actually invokes that from an event. We've done events before, we did them last time. So this should be relatively straightforward. But I want to actually create this game object first, so we're going to just add that. Here's our block dropper. We'll attach the block dropper script to it, and then assign our prefab. And then everything's good, we just don't have any drop points yet. I'm going to create 4, I think. 4 makes sense. So that is at the camera. Let's not do that. There we go. And so I'm actually going to just move this up 10. We're actually going to want to probably have this be dynamic and actually rise with the maximum height. We'll have to do that calculation later. This way, if you go above 10 units, it's just going to spawn them inside of themselves, and that's probably not what we want, but it'll work for now. So we'll have a drop point. Should we do 5? Then there's 1 in the middle, and then 2 on either side. That might make the most sense. And then I'll just do 1 over to the side, and 2. And then this one will be the opposite, so -1 and then -2. Which, in hindsight, that's probably not the best way to do that. We can kind of fix what I just did this way. So I'm trying to get these in order so they go from left to right. Because of the way I just indexed everything, that isn't actually gonna do what I want, but this will get it in the same order. So 4 is going to be on the far left at -2, and then 2 is on the far right at 2. And then everything in between there just kind of falls in between. So that's kind of how that works. We've got all of those set up. Now we need to set up our event, which is just going to be connecting to the keyboard for now. And so you can press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will just drop that block. So keyboard block drop controller, sure. Why not? So as an update, we're going to need a public Unity event. There we go. We may run into issues here because of generics, like we ran into last time, because I actually need generics here. Okay. There we go. ReSharper has this weird thing with hotkeys where it doesn't always recognize, like it was saying Alt-Enter was the hotkey. It took like four tries for it to actually recognize that that's what I was doing. It's really weird. Let's see here. On block drop event. We'll leave off the event there. If we start something with on, we're kind of using that as a way to signal that it's an event. So I don't think we need event there as well. That's just more typing and more information that is redundant at this point. So we have that. Now we just need to tie into our update, which is just going to be, is this a good idea? This might not be a good idea. Let's do Input.GetKeyDown. button down. So get key. That's going to return a key code. I guess this works. It's not exactly what I wanted, because I think we want this will be 1, sorry. But so what I was thinking that we could do is actually just get the key code that was pressed out and then do a switch on that. That won't actually work because you can get multiple keys. So if you do like Shift A or whatever, Shift Control Space or any of those kind of combinations, you're going to get multiple things out. So just capturing one of them would require at least a loop. So we're going to do it this way, which means we've got this, which is called onBlockDrop with an invoke of our parameter, which would be 0. Can't do that because of the we don't support generic arguments. So we're going to lose our editor, or we're not going to be able to attach this via Unity's editor without creating an inspector, unfortunately. So we need to figure out how to do that, because the way I can get this to compile is just do something like this, and you'll see all those compile errors go away. But if I come back here and actually were to attach this keyboard block drop controller onto something, it's not going to get exposed in our inspector. We can't touch that event at all, which becomes an issue because that's how we need to actually do this. I could just go and discover it. So I could actually say, what's a good way to do this? Like require component and do that, or just go into start and do find object of type. This would actually work. We actually might want to do this. Hold on. So I can find our block dropper. This will work assuming our block dropper is like a singleton instance, which means there's just one of them. If there's multiple, we'll only find one of them, and just it will be a random one. Effectively random. It will be probably the same one every time, but that's still random. It's just based on how we actually place them in the scene and stuff like that. Not something you can rely on. But I think we can actually use this. So that we're going to actually try that. We're going to do dropper equals that. And then dropper dot on block drop. So when this event gets invoked, we are going to take in that index. Okay, I think I'm doing this right. I could be that's not how you do that. Equals our index. Hold on. It's been a while if you can't tell that I've tried to do this. If you wouldn't mind stopping that, there we go. So this should be our event. We may need a object at the beginning of that. But what I'm going to do is do dropper dot drop block at index, and we're going to take the index out and do that. Doesn't like this. Can't be applied to operands of type unity event int and lambda expression. Okay, on block drop dot add listener. Did they take out the C# events ability to just add them, or am I doing that wrong? I feel like that's right. Okay, we'll try this a different way. There we go. Index, and I should just be able to copy this minus that. There we go. Weird. Okay, so that they must have gotten rid of like the operator overload or something for accepting those. Because with normal C# events, you can just do plus equals to subscribe to an event and minus equals to unsubscribe. Doesn't appear like that's the case in Unity. Maybe because of some of their like JavaScript support or something. I'm actually not sure. So I'll just stop talking about it. But this way, we're finding the dropper wherever it is in the scene. It can be attached to a different object, pretty much anywhere, and we'll find it. We'll find the first one we come across, not all of them, so that if you have multiple, it's not going to work. But in this case, it should be fine. And here, we need to switch this so they're not all the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are now the keys bound to this, and that should send something to our block drop, which should then call this and create a block and drop it. That's sort of what I would expect. So I should be able to just hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get them all to drop. Theoretically. We'll find out real quick if that worked or not. The answer is no. Line 14 failed. Null reference. Oh, it'd probably help if we initialize this. Do I really have it? So this is interesting. Because the Unity event is a property, it's going to behave differently than what you'd expect a normal Unity event to behave as, or a normal event to behave as. That's I'm not entirely sure if you can do this. I've actually never tried. Clearly it's not happy, because it's an abstract class. That makes perfect sense. Does it just make more sense to just use a normal event handler? Let me check how to actually use these, because I don't know. I've never tried to just instantiate one like this outside of the thing. So we'll see if there's somebody else has a suggestion on that, and then I'll pick this back up. So you're not supposed to do this. This might be why it isn't showing up in the inspector. So we're actually going to quickly fix this. We are going to create a new public class drop index event. Sure, and that's going to extend a Unity event of an int, like so. And we can just leave that totally empty. We don't need any additional stuff, and I don't need that either. And then we're going to implement a system serializable. So this is actually going to make it serialize in the Unity editor, which means that it should be saved. The state should be able to be saved by Unity's editor when you actually edit it in the property inspector, or in just Unity's inspector. So hopefully, because we add this and we've created our own implementation of it, everything should work. And then if our onBlock, oops, that's not right. If our onBlock drop is null, we're going to do all of this. But theoretically, all of this should now be exposed from the inspector, so we shouldn't need to. I can just copy this now, remove the int. We don't need the generic argument anymore. And that is pretty much everything we needed. So it gets rid of the generic argument entirely, because we just wrapped it inside of the implementation of our class. So the generic doesn't exist at all. But now if we don't implement it in the inspector, we should be able to get it here and actually set it up. And then both of those should just work. Once this recompiles, we should see it kind of go away. There we go. Still running. That's interesting. Still not popping up here either. That's okay. Fine. And then if we run this now, it works. And if I hit one, oh dear. Didn't use the key down I use just the get key. So if I hold this, well, that happens, which I guess is cool. Props to Unity for this not breaking it, because I'm still holding it. Yeah, so we have that's a lot of objects. And all of them have physics on them, so cool. How many is that? That's a lot. Does it tell me how many? Nope. Okay. I don't know an easy way to get how many that is, but lots. We dropped a lot of things. Wasn't entirely what I was going for. Let's get rid of this. Get key down. There we go. Just way easier. This way we're not triggering it every single frame. That's just simpler. So now we have this. We should be able to drop things, and it should actually be coherent because we'll only drop one when I hit the key. So if I do 1, it should go there. 2 should go right next to it. 3 should go in the middle. 4 should go right there. And then 5 should go right there. And so we can just kind of do that over and over. Until you spam it a bunch and then it all falls over. And because it is, I made this thing super heavy. It's actually fairly stable, and we don't raise it, so I actually reach the max height before it gets unstable. So I don't think you can lose at this point. But in the next video, what we're going to do is actually make it so the scene expands. So as you build more things, the entire camera will zoom up and kind of keep everything in frame. And we'll also move up this dropper, so it goes up with everything. So it just stays right outside of the screen. So that's sort of coming up next, but we'll leave that till then. For now, this is just basic event stuff and object instantiation, but we're getting there. It's sort of, the functions are there. We can lose and all of that, but we'll build on it more. So that's it for this video. If you guys want to talk about this project a little more, leave a comment or come join our Discord. I've set up sort of a channel for just all of these mixer games. So if you want to come and chat in there, or just generally talk about development, whether that's some Azure project or some other Unity project, then yeah, be my guest. But that's it for this video. So until next time, see you, Internet.